to lecture number 25 of GE 103. We are discussing structure from last class. And in last class, we have discussed the basic concept of structure, how to declare a structure, how to initialize a structure, and how to display a structure, how to pass a structure to a function. All these basic concepts we have discussed. And if you remember my last class, I've explained, I try to relate the structure with a table that was shown in an Excel sheet. If you remember, many time I try to relate the concept of structure with the Excel sheet of which is filled with the records of students. It was actually the marks of your lab assignment. So for this lecture also, that the structure of that Excel sheet is important. So here I am not showing this Excel sheet, but if you want, you can go back to my previous video and check that Excel sheet, that structure, that table like structure. If you remember uh, what I said, how I try to relate the structure with that table, that whatever the columns of that Excel sheet, I actually created a structure based on all the columns like name, roll number, marks, L1, L2, L3. Based on this, I've created a structure, and every row there, or every data or every row in that Excel sheet was a record of a particular student. How I relate that with in structure, I say that if I declare a variable like S1 of that type structure type student, then that S1 represent a particular row in that Excel sheet. Okay, if I declare another variable called S2 and I fill some data in S2, then it's actually S2 represent another particular row in that table. So I hope that you remember all these things. So based on this concept, we'll proceed. Oh, and we'll discuss area of structure today. But before starting area of structure, there is an important point that I missed in last class. That will be, I'll explain this and then I'll continue with area of structure. The important point that I missed in last class is I have shown you how to initialize the structure in different way, how to how to assign some values to a structure variable. That I have explained in different ways. But what I forgot is how to take values for a structure directly from keyboard. That how to use scanf, that I have missed. So let me use scanf function here to store the values for second structure. Assume that first structure is initializing like this, but for second structure S2, I want to take input through scanf. So I'll make this as comment. So student S2 is there is a variable, so a row will be created, but no data is there, right? So how to put this data? So let me write printf, enter the information separated by space. Okay, or separated by new line, and then scanf. I'll write only one scanf. First one should be %d. Okay, second one should be %s, then %s email ID, and then to %d, %d, and then first one is S2, I think address of S2 dot serial number, then S2 dot name. Why address of is not required? Because name is an array. So if you write s2 dot name, then name means the base address. This address of symbol is not required in case of array, if you remember. Then s2 dot email, then s2 dot, then address of s2 dot l1, then address of s2 dot l2, and then s2 is maybe address of login s2 dot l3. Okay, so you can write a complex scanf like this also. Means what we did normally in our previous examples, we use scanf to just input one particular variable, but instead of this, like instead of doing this like same as printf, you can also take multiple inputs to a single scanf. So what I am doing here, I am taking all the inputs of a structure variable, through this scanf function. Let me just run and check if it will run or not. Okay, so program is running here, so I have to type. I should give a new line here. Since I have not given new line, it is waiting here for my command. So I'll enter a serial number two, then name is Saurabh, and then Saurabh at the rate gmail.com, and then his marks 20, 21, 10 suppose. See, so every marks are entering through this line, and they are storing in S2, and finally I'm displaying these two lines. So you can also use scanf to take input of a structure, take values of structure variable directly from the keyboard. Always remember this thing. This is not just related to its structure, it's related with array. If there is a normal variable, then you have to pass address of symbol and then variable to pass the address, because scanf needs the address of that variable, not just the variable. And so this is I have explained in my initial classes also. But if you go for a string, then string is actually a character. It's an array of characters, so it's an array. So if there is an array, then you mention the name. Then name is actually the base address of the array. You no need to explicitly mention address here. Always remember this. So this is the point that I missed. So you can also use scanf directly to take input for a structure. Okay, now we'll move to the array of structure. What is called array of structure? So before understanding array of structure, you should revise again what is called array. The main concept of array is a set of similar elements. Means every element that you can store in an array, the data type must be same. So here student is also a data type, right? Maybe it's not a inbuilt data type, but is the user defined data type. User defined means you have created a data type like student. So if student is a data type, we can also create a array of student. Array of student means it's a collection of student. Suppose if I create a array where every element is a variable of student, then it's a valid array, right? So that thing we'll discuss today, and that is very important. Why very important? Because again, I'm saying taking the example of that Excel sheet. If you see the Excel sheet that I have designed, so that Excel sheet is fine. That what I say that if you design a structure and every variable of structure is a row of that Excel sheet, that is fine. But ultimately, suppose that Excel sheet has 5,000 rows. So it's not possible to create variables like S1, S2, S3, S 5,000. That is very difficult, right? It's same as a variable. Say here the requirement is same as variable and array. When you need to go for a variable and when you need to go for an array, that I have explained when I have explained you the concept of array. The same thing is also possible here. See, you have to maintain a huge Excel sheet, a huge table in a computer. Okay, and so okay, fine that you can go for multiple variables. Each variable represents one particular row. That's fine, but if your requirement is very high, you want to maintain a very big records and all records are related, logically related. Sometimes you have to perform an average of all these. Sometimes you have to perform a sum of all the marks getting by all the students. So in that case, if you maintain variables, it's a very difficult thing. You should maintain an array, isn't it? Just I'll ask you another question to you. If I give you a question that given 500 numbers to you, find the average of them. Just if I give you a program like this, that you have to take 500 integer numbers as an input from a keyboard in your program, and then you have to find the average of those values. How you will do it? Can you do it without an array? If you want to do it without an array, your code will be so lengthy. You have to go for 500 scanf, you have to go for 500 variables, and then you have to add one by one. That is actually impractical. No one will do the like this. How you will do? You will create an array of size 500, then you will just take input using a for loop for 500. Ultimately you have to type 500 variables if you want to take as a input from keyboard. But that's fine. But after this, if you want to calculate the average, then you will just create a for loop over the array, and we'll find the average, right? So the same thing here. The same example I can give here also. If you want to maintain a huge record, huge rows of, or you can say huge means record of many students, and you want to do some operation on this also, not just individual student, average of all the student, total marks of marks get by all the students, then it's better to maintain an array of structure. I hope it is clear to you what is called array of structure. Right. So I'll show you an example how to write array of structure, but you can read it here also from this book, array of structure. How to design a array of structure, how to define this. Just write structure, the structure. Then okay, I'll show you in my example here what they have written, structure class. So and student. Maybe you will misguide with this because I have used student to define type. So I'll not use this example. First, I will show you my example. Then, when you come in this book, you'll understand it. But if I go for this structure, structure marks, then maybe you will understand. That is a structure they have defined. No type def here, only the structure marks. This is a structure variable, and inside main they have used an array. So if we just want to declare a variable of structure, then what we do here? What we will do here? Structure marks s1, suppose. But if you want to declare an array, what will do? Structure mark student 3, semicolon here. Assume there is a semicolon here. So student 3 means I have declared a variable. I have declared an array. You understand it, right? And they, what they did here, they also initialize the array. You know how to initialize a 2D array, right? So structure can be initialized in similar way, means the logic is almost similar as a 2D array. Also, last class I've explained you how to initialize a single array structure variable, right? So here what they did, the structure is this: subject 1, subject 2, subject 3. There are three integer variable, integer members are there in each structure variable. So there are three structure variables here actually. So equal to, this is the first structure, second structure, and third structure. So you can initialize the structure array like this also, or there are many other ways. So I'll just explain the ways here. I'll not show you all the ways by program unnecessary. It will create a lot of time, means it is I have to spend a lot of time and video will be lengthy. This is one way you can initialize the all the arrays of structure, where means all the elements in a array of structure. Or you can also specifically go like this: student 0 dot subject 1 equal to 45, student 0 dot subject. So previously what was happening, let me just open a notepad, and maybe by notepad I can explain you this example better. So what I was doing yesterday, if you remember, I have written struct struct student s1, suppose. And if I want to access a variable, I has written s1 dot name, s1 dot l1. In this way I can access a particular member of that variable, right? That is fine. But what we need to do here today, if you see today what I said, that this is an array. If you declare an array like this s10, okay, you have declared array. So how many variables you have declared here for structure? There are 10 variables. It's an array. It's an array, and there are 10 elements in this array. So if you want to access the first element, you have to write s0. This is your first structure, right? You have to understand what I have written here. This array S is an array of structure. Array of structure means this array has 10 elements. Each element is a structure variable, and of type this structure, structure student. Okay, so S0 is also a structure of type student. So how to access the name? S0 dot name. You can write this, right? If you want to access the mark, then you can write s0 dot l1 like this. The same thing they have explained here. So you can initialize the name also. So you cannot, since name is a string, you cannot like write this, right? You have to use strcpy, that I have explained you in last class. Here you can write 20. That 20 will be assigned to s0 l1. Okay, so that's the simple technique you can use. Also, you can go for scanf, that I have explained just now. But that I am giving you as assignment to try it. So what I've shown you, that scanf for a single structure variable. But if you want to apply scanf for a array structure, how to use it, that is an assignment for you. Try it. It's not difficult. You know all the concept. You can do it. Okay. So what I'll do here. Uh, I'll I'll just show you one example of array structure. What I'll do here, I'll remove this part. This program is familiar with you because you know this program. you are familiar with this program because this is the structure that I'm using from my last class. This is the function that I'm using here to just display a structure that I may use it here also. So okay, and integer means. So now what I'll do here, instead of one structure variable, I'll use this student to create a array of structures. Suppose array of four structures. Okay, this is a structure of as it is array of structure. So if you see the difference here, what they are using here, they are using structure mark student, the complete thing structure mark. Why? Because if you remember last class I said either you use structure student very, or you can use type def structure student. If you use type def student, the student is a user defined type. You have defined a type. The moment you write student, it will understand that okay, student is a structure type, so you can use this also. And it is, you can practice this symbol because this is better, because when you go to linked list it will help you. Means, so not linked list, sorry, when you go and try to write program from data structures, then this format, type def format, will be helpful for you. So it will save our time to when we write a lengthy program. Okay, so now I want to take input for this very for this. So let me take input for the first structure. No, what I will do, I'll directly take input as I'll initialize the variable. I'll not go for any input. Maybe one Sachin, then let me uh, let me come. So I initialize this array. There are sorry, just write three here. So there are three elements in this array. First element is for Sachin, serial number one. Then name is Sachin. Then email ID. Then the marks L1, L2, L3. All these elements for first, and then this is the initialization of first element. Then the second element is here. Third element is here. So ultimately, I have initialized all the three elements of this array S. Now I want to display this. So if I want to display one by one all the elements, what I can do here, I can use a for loop. For integer I equal to 0, I less than size of this array. I know the size is 3, so I go for I plus plus, and what to write here, display structure, and then pass the a particular array, particular element as I. Is it sufficient? I think so, because you know display structure is a function that we have used in last class to display a particular structure. So, and each element of this array is a structure. So one by one I'm passing this element to this, one by one I'm passing a particular element to this function. So let me run this code. See, it is running properly. So here in at line number 14 to 17, I just initialize the array, and from 18 to 18 and 19, I just want to display all the. So I simply use a for loop here, and I call this display function. Okay, fine. So if the next question if I ask is no, what about if you want to pass the complete array to a function? Is it possible? Yes, you know how to pass a array to a function, right? So you can use this concept. That is also an assignment for you. See, I don't give you a specific assignment. There is no graded assignment, but I give some assignment for you as a home practice. You do this practice, then only you will understand the programming language. And maybe I ask some of them in your remaining labs or in final exam also. So this another assignment I am giving here. If you want that to display this array, don't pass individual element like this to a function. You have to modify this function in such a way that the complete array you can pass at one time from here, like display structure S means just passing one a complete array to this function, and within this function you apply for loop and display all the elements in this structure in this array. Okay, so that is an home assignment again for you. So I hope the array of structure is clear. So now you can, why I said this complete picture, they say how to represent a data, and I said most of the data you can represent as a table in a physical copy, not not just in computer. If you maintain a register, if you maintain a copy, if you want to store some data, you will just maintain a table. First you will create some column, and one by one you will create rows. For example, in the security guard in our main gate of IIT, what you will do if you want to maintain all the records, who is coming, all the visitor records, first of all you will purchase the register, create some column, date, name, email IDs, phone number like this, and signature. like all this column. And every time whenever a new person will come, it will create a new row for him or her, right? So if you want to store this type of data, this if you want to store or means store or represent this type of structure, the data structure in a computer or in specifically in C programming, then array of structure is the best way. I hope I no need to explain it in further detail why I'm saying that, because this concept of table can be easily represent as a array of structure, right? Okay, so I'm stopping the concept of array of structure here and moving to another interesting concept. So let me go back to the book. If you go, and there is a section in this book called array within structure. Array within structure means a member of this structure can be an array. Nothing new here because we have already used array in structure. Where? See, we have used character array. This is the we have considered this as an what you can say as a string, but ultimately there is no specific data type for string in C, so we have to maintain array of character, right? So we are already using array inside as well. So it means that instead of just like character of array of character, we can, if it is required, we can also go for array of integer, any other array, that's also possible as a member. So that is written here. See, if your marks is a structure, integer number, float subject, you can also go for array of subject like this. In this case, how you will access this? I'll just, I'll not write a program, but I'll show you here. Suppose, see, uh, okay, can you understand this syntax first of all? I have not explicitly explained it, but whatever things I have explained in yesterday's class and today's class, if you combine both the concept, you should understand what they are doing here. What they are doing here is actually they have created a array. Name of this array is student, and there will be two elements here, two elements of this structure. If you remember what I said, then if you have a structure struct structure marks, and maybe you have all the variables here, all the members here, and here if you write s1 comma s2, then these are the two variables. You can declare variables like this also. So what they did the same thing here. So if you write stud and student, then student is a variable here. Don't confuse that it's a type def, because type def is not used here. If type def is not used here, then student is just a variable here. When if I write these, then student is an array, isn't it? So they have created a array, and the name of this array is student here. So that's why I said, maybe if I take example from book as well as my example, then you may be confused. But that's why I have not used this example previously, but now I am using it, and I'm explaining the difference also. In our case, what we did here, we use the type def, and we use this word student as a type def. So is our we just name the type structure as student. So we created variables by name of student, but what they did here is different. They did that their structure name is marks, and they didn't go for type def here. So structure mark is a structure, and if you here if I write s1, then it's a variable. You can also declare a variable in this format. I've explained it in last class. So, and so instead of s1, if I write here student student 3, then it's a array. Student 3 is an array. So that's fine. And so now what is the members? First member is number, and second member is it a float. This is the sub j is it is subject 3. Okay. So now if you want to access this subject, because subject is again there is an array. So there are two array. First array is a array of student, and inside array of student, each element is a type of structure. That is fine. This is a type of structure, and each structure has two member. One member is called number, and another member is an array again. It's a subject. So if I want to access subject, let for the first element, first array, first structure element. So what we will write? Student 0. Student 0 is the first element of structure array. Dot number. If I write dot number, then it's the first element. Means you can access the number like this. But if I want to access the second one, we can write this dot, then sub subject is an array. So particular element of this array you can access like this, or if subject 1 subject 2, you can access different like the elements like this. So here the concept, not no new concept is there, but we are combining the different concept. First of all, if you see here, they combine the concept of array of structure, and within array of structure, each element of array of structure is a structure that is fine, but inside that structure, the member of that structure has also some of this member are also array. It's also possible. So inside this there is another array. So how to access each element of the inside array? That means you have to go for two dots, dot dot. So here one dot, sorry, two array elements. So first you are accessing one array element. This is a structure element. This is a structure element, and inside that structure element, if you want to access that particular member which is also an array, you have to go for subject and then a particular index of this array. So you read this book, read this section, you will understand it in more detail. Then one more interesting point is written here: structure within structure. Yes, it's also possible. See, when I have explained this, that I will this is in structure, you can define, different different data types here. It means that you can define variables of different data types. These are called members. So members can be of different data types. One can be integer, means string, that is array of character, array of integer, array of float, anything can possible. But if anything is possible, then another user defined data can also come here. Another user defined data means structure is a user defined data type, right? So if there is another user defined data type, maybe another user defined data type can also be a member of this structure. That we will discuss now. So before discussing this, let me create another structure. So what I will do here, I will create another structure, type def strs, it is structure, and it's a structure of let me name this as address. This is an address. So an address, I'll use two string character, uh, house. Each number is actually house number. Okay, house number should be, is integer is enough for house number. Suppose integer house number, then character street 30, sorry, and then I think another string for suppose date 30. Okay, so what this first structure is saying, first structure is saying about an address. So if you know that address is a complex thing, address means it has different part. First of all, address start with house number, then street, then care of, district, state, police station. Many things should be there in a structure. So it's better to write an in an address. Many things should be there in an address, not structure, sorry. So so better to write represent address as a structure, not just a single string. Maybe what we can do that we can create a single string for address, like character address. We can write like this. Now this is our address, and I'll go for 100 size of character, and I will write everything in a single line. That is fine. You can write address like this, but sometime maybe it is requirement that you are maintaining a table. I'll say, okay, find out how many students are there from Punjab. Then it will be difficult. It's possible, but it's not very easy. If I say, okay, find out how many students are there from Rajasthan, then it's you have to yes, string processing is possible, but it's difficult. So it's better to maintain a structure, because address is a composite data structure. Means it's a composite data type. It's not a single, because it is multiple parts: house number, street, state, district. So suppose I am using a separate structure for address, and in student records with email, I also want to store address. So what I should do here, I'll write address and then addrs variable. Okay. Now what I did here is interesting. Here actually this what is this addr? Addr is a variable of type structure. Which structure? Structure type address. So it means that this structure is called student structure. So inside student structure, there is a member which is also a type, which type is also another structure. So that is possible, that structure inside structure is also possible. So the same thing is shown here, but what they did structure within structure, they have created another this structure here only. So instead of creating this structure here, what I did here, that I have created this structure outside and I'm using it here. So both you can do. You can also either go for this syntax or this syntax. I think this syntax is better. This syntax is better. It is clean syntax. So you can declare a structure like this and you can use it like here as a struct address like this. So now I have to change the complete thing here to, I'll not go for array of structure now. I'll just go for a I'll define as uh, student single variable like student s1. So how to initialize the values for student s1, right? So there are many concepts here. So let me initialize the values. So what we can do here, let me means assign values. S1 dot serial number is partner. Let me write 1. Then S1 dot name is next. Name is it's a string, so we have to use strcpy. I hope you remember it, right? Strcpy, and then name is suppose Sachin. Okay, and then I'll copy this strcpy because this is required for all the strings. Strcpy. Next is email, right? Email, and that is sachin@gmail.com. Okay. After this, after email, what is the next is address. Address, if you see the addr is another, again another structure, and that structure has three values, each number, street, and state. So I have to insert all of them one by one. How to do this? Here s1 dot addr dot each number, and that is not a string, so that is not a string, so we'll use this concept, street number equal to suppose 40. Okay, and then next one is s1 dot address, and then dot state, sorry, not state, next one is actually street. So I'll go street, and street maybe I'll write uh, large path, large path. I'll go for large path. Okay, and then I'll go for another one. Here I'll write address, and next here is state. Here I'll write suppose I'll write Assam. Okay, and then there are three more. S1 dot L1 equal to 10. Then s1 dot, this part you're familiar with it now. I have used it, I'm using it from last lecture, the same example and same values, so this part is clear, I think. So what is new here? If I can say I ignore these three, if I ignore these three, remaining part is familiar, is clear to you, I think, because I'm using the same example again and again. But what this three is saying, these three lines, if you want to understand these three line, actually these three are related with this. Here in this student type structure, inside this there is a member called ADDR, but this ADDR, this is not a means, it's not a, you means inbuilt data type. Inbuilt data type means integer, character. These are called inbuilt, but it's not inbuilt. This is again a user defined data type, which is called address. What is address? It's another structure. So it means that you want to actually, if you see it in a higher level, you want to store the address of a student, right? Previously, what we were trying to store of a student, serial number, name, email ID, and its marks. But now a requirement is you want to store the address of the student also, and to maintain it, means to store it in a proper format. What you did, you are using a structure for this address, means the address should be always in this structure, right? So now, and this structure is here. So for this address there are three members inside, means house number, street, and state. So if you want to access this, how to access it? If you want to access name, then same as s1 dot name. If you want to access serial number, this is same as s1 dot serial number. S1 is the structure variable. But if you want to address, then if you want to access address, then s1 dot addr That is the complete structure of it, because it's a structure type. So inside this addr, it's a structure of type, it's a structure variable of type address. So it has, again, inside this structure there are three members. So if you want, you have to access this member separately. So first member, to access first member, again you have to go for dot. This dot is for accessing a particular member of S1, and the second dot is accessing a particular member of ADDR. Okay, the same thing here also. And I hope why I'm using strcpy is clear to you, right? Because I cannot do this. I cannot do this. Means this is not permitted in string operation. Basically, I want I actually I was doing the same thing. It means I was assigning large path to this street, but this syntax is not allowed in C, so I'm using strcpy. I hope it is clear to you. Now, what I'll do, I'll display this array. Display structure S1. Now, if I display this, the what will happen? First, let me display it. Then you'll see that there are some limitation in this function. See what this function is doing. This function, what it is printing. See, it is not printing the address. Why it is not printing? Because we have not written the syntax for it. So we are passing this address, this variable here. This s1 will be copied in this. And what we are printing here, we are just printing serial number, name, email address, and the marks. So we are not printing the address at all. If we don't print the address, so if you don't write any syntax here for printing address, then it will not print, right? So it is printing same as the example I used in previous means in last lecture. So let me add the address part. Let me add it here after email. So if I want to add it here, then we have to use some more percentage here. So percent d for house number, percent s for street, and percent s for state. So let me write it here. What I will write here, s dot addr dot house number. If you are typing it in a normal editor, then you have to type everything. But since I am using this smart editor IDE, it's an IDE, so it is giving me some predictions, and based on this I am choosing. This is called intelligence. But anyway, I hope it is easy. See, address dot street. Okay, and then last one is s dot address dot state. I think that uh, uh, देखते ही कुछ everything is fine. So what I did here, I added these three now. This is for house number, this is for street, and this is for state. And for the same, I have added here s dot address, s dot addr dot house number, s dot addr dot street, s dot addr dot state. Now, if I run this code, it will print everything. See, it is printing Sachin, and these three are the address, house number, this is street, and this is state. It is printing all. So what I just try to explain here, that if you, when you are designing a structure, it is not necessary that all the members inside the structure should be the inbuilt data and should have inbuilt data type, means integer, character, and all. Inside a structure, you can go for another structure also. Structure inside structure, that is also possible. You can read this complete concept here. So whatever I explained, the same thing is written in book also, but maybe in much more deeper details. Because when I am explaining it, since I am writing a runtime program, so maybe it's very much possible that I may miss some small things. So we have to read this book and try to understand the complete concept. Everything is written in book, whatever I have explained. Okay. So only point that I have not explained yet in this chapter is called union. So I'll explain union in next lecture, and also I'll try to explain some basics of how to calculate the size of a structure. Because if you remember, in last lecture also I said that calculating the size of a structure is little bit complicated. It's not straightforward, so and it needs some explanation. So in the next lecture, I will explain you how to allocate a structure variable in memory. Basically, if when you declare a structure variable, how computer actually allocates the memory for that structure variable, that will be discussed in next lecture. Thank you for watching this video lecture.